Good afternoon, beautiful people. Happy Monday. I hope it's going really, really well for you. We're on the downhill run. Welcome to day 12 of Radical Self-Love, and we are on the day of Feminine Flow. One of my favorite days as well, as are all the days. But Feminine Flow, it is something that I've connected to very, very intimately and very deeply in the last few years. And the reason for that is because it's our most powerful creative source. When we tap into our menstrual cycle and how, as women, we ebb and flow, it literally transforms the way we live our life. We, as the feminine, are cyclic. We work in cycles. So our menstrual cycle, for instance, is something that we've been taught in many different ways, that it is, we've got different stories. We all have different stories that we've been passed on, or that it's inconvenient, or that it's an inconvenience, or whatever it may be. And the reality is, it's so transformative and powerful and potent, the creative life force that comes from our womb and that comes from when we bleed. And as women, we birth life. What a miraculous gift that is, to be able to bring life into the world. And the only reason we can do that is because of our cycles. And we've become so disconnected from that space. It's something that I absolutely adore working with, not only for my own body, but for working with that through my business. So, for instance, I really encourage you to track your cycle for when you're menstrual, when you're bleeding, when you're pre-ovulation, when you're ovulating, and then when you're premenstrual, because we have different energies that we can, and different archetypes that we can tune into. We also have different bodily needs, and we also work in different ways. So for instance, when you are pre-ovulation and ovulating, we're in a yang energy. So we're in a more masculine energy. So we actually have more, our body wants to make a baby, pretty much. So we have more energy. We can be more action orientated. We can see details clearer. That's the time to get your paperwork done. And then when we're in our premenstrual and our menstrual phase, or when we're bleeding, it's very yin. So yin is our feminine space. It's our very inward time. It's a time where we should reflect and go inward and tune into your heart and your soul and your womb. So we have, say a basic cycle works on 28 days. We have 14 days of each. And when you can actually utilize your life and your business and your workload or whatever it is around it, it absolutely transforms, because we're more productive. We can get more stuff done. We're not supposed to go in yang mode for 4 weeks straight or a year straight, or and unfortunately society has taught us to live a man's way, to live in this constant going and doing, which is fueled from testosterone. Men have more energy than we do in that way, is because they've got more testosterone. That's just how it is. We don't have those levels. And we're never going to. Yet we're trying to live a life that's the same pace and is as hectic, or as constantly going and doing as a man can actually deal and cope with. And we physically and emotionally, mentally and etherically can't. Not because we're trying to compete, but we're literally different. We're different in every essence of who we are, and our power is tapping back into that space within ourselves. It actually works out like that for me now, but I actually plan my business and businesses around my cycle. So when I'm in my yin phase, I do less outward expression and more inward, and I don't want to spend as much time with clients. And when I'm on my yang phase, which is when I'm ovulating and pre-ovulation, I get so much done. So the last 2 weeks I've been pre-ovulation and ovulation. So It's when you feel pretty freaking good. It's when you look good and you feel good because your body wants to make a baby. And if it doesn't, you know, it doesn't, but you feel really, really good. So I put that energy into action in those 2 weeks. And then as soon as this course is over, I will be almost in my premenstrual stage. So I will slow down. I will tune back in and reflect on these 2 weeks. And yeah, I really encourage you to tune into your cycle and what your relationship is to it, what your relationship is to tuning in to your womb. Earlier in the week, I asked you to do some really deep womb breaths and really feel into the womb. The womb holds so much potency and power, but also a lot of trauma. So the more that you can tune into that space and love it and breathe into it, breathe life into your womb, the more of a powerful creator you are, and the more you're going to step into the empowerment of the incredible woman that you are. So just like the seasons, we are cyclic, and our bodies are designed to be that way. And it's the most powerful transformation that I have made around tuning in and listening to my body. The reason for that is because, hello darling, hey. The reason for that is because when we are in action mode all the time, we burn out too quick, but when we're also in yin mode all the time, we don't actually get stuff done. And as I said, there's so much I can go into about this, and I'm only touching on it in this course because I'm actually turning this 14-day immersion into a online course to do, because because there's so much content on each of these days. This has just been a snippet, but I encourage you to track your cycle. Track if you're consistent. Track your days. Are you 26 days every month? Are you 30 days every month? I know my cycle's a 27-day cycle. That's how mine works. So I'm aware of how my body works around that, and I utilize around it. Sometimes there's things you can't avoid, and you know, life doesn't stop on the outside, but there's ways that you can still adapt to that, and I encourage you to really tune into that. When I'm bleeding, I'm very inward. That's my time. That's my time for me. That's nobody else's space. That's not the space where I have to give to anyone but me. And that's a powerful, potent space to be in. And a lot of times we actually don't tune into that. Whether that's because we're stopping it because of contraception, or whether we're ignoring it because we've got too much stuff to do. And yeah, I really ask you to tune into your body and what you've been taught about your menstrual cycle from your mother or grandmother, etc., because there's been a lot of shame brought up around our menstrual cycles, and it's really, really important that you tune in to know that this is your creative life force and this is your potency as a woman. And we should be celebrating it. We should be honoring our bodies so much in the way of how cyclic we are, but in constantly honoring the ebbs and flows, just like we do the seasons. And I actually tune the cycles back into seasons as well. So for instance, when we're bleeding, it's our winter phase. So what do we do in winter? We tune in, we go inward, we almost hibernate. It's just like that time that you just want to snuggle up with yourself. Then we move into pre-ovulation, and that's spring. That's that time where a lot of new ideas can blossom, and that's the energy you can tune into of newness, of spring, of blossoming, and you really start to come out of yourself because you're really starting to get that glow. Then as we move into ovulation and post-ovulation, it is our summer stage. So that's again a lot of action energy. You can get a lot of your book work done, a lot of your mental stuff, that when we move into autumn, which is our premenstrual, it's our time for really deep reflection. Autumn is that time of shedding away that stuff, and a lot of the time we're taught with our cycle, you know, that the saying that goes, oh, you know, she's got PMS, or you know, she's moody before she gets a cycle. You know what? It's actually because all the stuff that we haven't dealt with, that we've ignored or suppressed, is coming up in this space where we actually have a lack of hormones at that time, and it's actually asking us to address them. So when you're premenstrual, go in, journal, write it out, cry, because the more you can actually release in that time for when you actually release and start bleeding. That's why when we start bleeding, we're just like, I don't feel angry anymore. And even if you're not aware of it, it's still consciously happening. So in that autumn stage, what happens? The leaves fall off their trees, we let go, it's just a change in a cycle again. So tune into your cycle and really embody it with the seasons and how we are nature. We are attuned to it so deeply. And when you can actually attune your body to that, it is honestly, you just move in sync with it. It's exactly like how summer right now, it's an action-orientated time. Look at, like, tune into how it's the same. We move into autumn soon. It's that time that we start to, like, you know, make a little cave for ourselves. We start to work through it. So that 3 months of the year, I actually let go of a lot of stuff. And then we move into winter, and it's that real inward stage. So it's the same on that 3 monthly basis as we move through our actual seasons, but the same with our cycle. So we can actually rejuvenate and restore every single month. And when you actually work that in with the moon phases as well, so our full moon and our new moon and every stage in between, you know, the life force that comes from that attunement and that alignment with our womanly body and how we can show up in the world, it's truly, truly remarkable in the level of self-worth and self-love that comes through. And in doing this, you're probably going to get a little bit of resistance, whether that's from yourself if you're so used to doing or lack of not doing, but also from the people around you that are expecting you to run a certain way because that's how the world does. So don't conform. You know, beat to your own drum, beat to your own cycle. It's truly incredible. And, you know, it's a journey. You're constantly going to go through different phases with your cycle as well. So just learn as to what foods you're drawn to during different parts. If you're drawn to a lot of sugar the week before, if you need more fats then, you know, because our body and our hormones are always fluctuating. So tune in as to what your little habits and what your body, how it signals if you're out of sync or if you're in sync. I just love it. Absolutely love it. But I love it in a really practical way. I've seen a lot of teachings on this work and I absolutely adore it. But my biggest passion is to actually teach this and I guess inspire this around business and around actually women being in business around utilizing and working with their bodies so intimately that everything has time for an inward reflection and an outward expansion. Thank you, Rach. It gives me goosebumps talking about it. So exciting. But tune in, beautiful beings. Like, it's tune into what your cycle is because it's so different to anybody else's. Okay, darling ones. I hope that's given you some insight on the feminine flow, and I encourage you to tune in a little bit more. Tune into your own body. Do some research, yeah, but tune into you first. And then do some research around our cycles or the feminine cycles. And yeah, just explore your body, explore the way your hormones affect your emotions. And yeah, when you explore your cycles, you'll really become aware of what emotions are really prevalent in each part of that as well, which is really powerful when you can actually, instead of outwardly project, inwardly process through that. So anyway, beautiful beings, I've got a netball game to go and play, and I will see you tomorrow for day 13. The next 2 days are some really powerful days, so I encourage you to make a little bit of time to do the 2 activities over the next 2 days because they are really powerful before we have our beautiful Sisterhood online Zoom call on Thursday evening, which I will post the Zoom link soon, but 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Queensland time on Thursday evening the 15th. we'll gather as sisters together and see the potency that we've created and weaved over the last 2 weeks together. So, much love, and I'll see you tomorrow.